it would change the culture because the higher the education, the more entrepreneurs you're going to have, and it will change. For example, let's be real, we live in corporatism today, where corporate dictates, being lobbying in the political system, and you see the effects on this. But what happens when you have highly educated, well-read people? Because a book to me is the conscience of somebody or the imagination. So I was saying this the other day. It's like the Bible. The Bible is the conscience of God,
Mhm.
right? And you want to go to that source of information to acquire more knowledge because there's more than 4,000 years of writing in there,
Mhm. Mhm.
So what happens when you have people that read more? It
Mhm.
creates a society that will definitely develop into more freedom as well. And what does freedom do? It liberates. It liberates oppression. It really embraces diversity because it understands that diversity is not a race or material thing, it's the criteria of each person. And I love what you're bringing. This is why it's so important to read. And there's a science behind it. And that's what we're trying to explore. Explore the science, the discipline of reading. And what do you benefit? How do you benefit later on in life when you're taking those SAT tests? Because, you got to remember most of our tests are based on memorization and that you remember all these words, but what's the point of knowing the word, but you don't know how to use them?
Mhm.
Because you're not articulate. You haven't been exposed to real life to say, I can implement this word because I know how to use it. I'm just not gonna say it because it sounds beautiful, right? But it's like that's how you compose poetry.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I don't know.
One of the things that you said that struck me is the science. Reading is a science. We know that it involves the brain. It's a science.
Mm.
And we know the pillars, we know the skills that are required to build a proficient reader, and we know the instructional method. When you don't provide either of the two, then you are infringing upon the civil rights of students. That's a social justice issue. We've known about the science for 40, 50, 60 years, and we sat on it. We provided a method of reading instruction that we knew did not work for majority of the students, and we did that for 40 something years. In fact, in New York, I think they just moved away from that type of instruction in 2019 or 2020. We knew that it wasn't working. We all knew that, but we didn't do anything. So my question is, how many children have we failed in those 40 years? How many students did we leave behind? How many students became disengaged with school and dropped out altogether? How many students went to college and changed their major because they weren't strong in reading? How many children have we failed knowing that instruction, that type of instruction did not work? Um, I don't think that it was so much of a change. We've always had a reading problem. There's always been a reading problem, right? COVID did not unveil this great big reading problem. COVID unveiled the access and accessibility, right? That woke us up. But we've always had a problem in this country with reading, going back to anti-literacy laws. So I just want to preface what I'm about to say with the fact that our brains were not wired to read. We have to teach it to read, right? It does this great thing. It rewires itself, right, to form pathways for reading to develop. A lot of people don't understand that. It's very different than language. Language, you can put a child in a room full of people who are speaking and they will speak. You don't have to teach them how to talk, right? That is not going to happen for reading. You cannot sit someone in a room full of people who are reading, whether they're reading out loud or silently. It's not going to happen. You have to teach it to read, right? That starts very early. What we think is reading starts in kindergarten, and then we build these habits in kindergarten. And if we think that, we're 5 years already behind, right? Reading starts really at the moment of conception. How? Well, all of the stuff that mom eats, all of the environmental pressures and stress impacts the developing brain. Reading is all about the brain. The brain is the main character, right? And so if we understand that, then we have a point of reference. And so how do we build stamina, right? Because in order to learn to read and read well, you have to build stamina. I'm like, this is a race, right? Not for the quick athlete, but it's endurance. And it took us years, decades to get here. My book has only been out since August. It's not going to take months for us to get out. And so people have to come to the point where I came to and say, okay, I reflected, now I see, and now I'm going to do better. When you know better, you do better.